You're not one body. You're 7 leaking cities in one skin. Some books teach. Others transform. This one does something else entirely. It reveals. In 1987, beneath Glastonbury Abbey, workers uncovered a sealed chamber that shouldn't have existed. It was a space meticulously hidden, a silent vault untouched for decades. Inside, nestled amongst ancient dust, was a notebook wrapped in oilskin, its pages filled with anatomical drawings unlike anything known to medical science. These weren't diagrams of bones or organs. These were vibrant energy bodies, layers of pulsating light surrounding the human form like concentric atmospheres. Each diagram was unsettlingly precise, hinting at a hidden architecture of consciousness. And at the bottom of each faded page, chilling initials that sent shivers down the spine. D.F. Dion Fortune, occultist, mystic, a guardian of hidden knowledge, long past, yet whose secrets persisted. This book wasn't meant to be found. It was a forbidden text, a revelation. It contained something she called the Sevenfold Veil, a complete, terrifyingly accurate map of the human aura. Not as a simple halo, but as a complex multidimensional structure, vibrating across unseen frequencies, a true psychic anatomy. And then came the final drawing. Not a whole figure, but a close-up. Cracks, fissures, ruptures in the outermost layer, what she ominously labeled the veil of forgetting. Beside it, a single, stark note in her unmistakable hand. The leakage begins when the soul forgets its origin. What exactly leaks out of these invisible cracks? And what, far more terrifyingly, slips in? By the end of this video, you'll understand why this book was buried beneath stone and silence, why Dion Fortune, despite her prolific writing, never published this, and why those rare few who've studied it believe we are all slowly unraveling, without even knowing it. If you're watching this, then that unraveling has already begun. So take a breath, because this is the story of the forbidden book that maps the astral body, and now, you're part of it. It was the spring of 1987 when workers restoring Glastonbury Abbey stumbled into silence. Beneath the worn stone floor of the old scriptorium, they found a sealed chamber. No records, no blueprints, no reason for its existence. The air that rushed out was cold and stale, carrying the faint metallic scent of iron and ancient dust. Inside, a metal strongbox, rusted shut around something far older than the abbey itself. What they pulled out changed everything. Wrapped in oilskin and bound with twine was a notebook, handwritten in precise, almost clinical script. The paper, though brittle, felt oddly resilient. No title, no date. Just page after page of anatomical drawings of bodies that didn't exist in any medical textbook. These weren't physical organs, they were energy centers. Glowing nodes, interwoven layers of light surrounding the human form. They vibrated on the page, not with actual light, but with an intensity that made the eyes ache. And at the bottom of each page, initials. D.F. Dion Fortune. The name alone still carries weight in esoteric circles. Born Violet Firth in 1890, she was one of Britain's most disciplined occultists. Trained in the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, author of the mystical Kabbalah, and rumored to have walked the astral plane during World War II to shield London from psychic attack. She was known for her rigorous approach to mysticism, for demanding empirical proof in an often vague field. But this notebook? It had never been mentioned in any biography, never cited in any archive, as if it had been deliberately erased from her known works. This was the first major contradiction. Her granddaughter, Margaret Ludlow, was contacted immediately. Ludlow, then in her 70s, lived a quiet life, rarely speaking of her grandmother's more controversial pursuits. But upon seeing the book, a look of profound shock, then grim recognition, crossed her face. She confirmed what scholars feared. This was Fortune's lost journal, not meant for publication, not even meant to be found. Ludlow confessed that her grandmother had spoken of a forbidden work, too dangerous for public consumption, something that revealed too much of the inner architecture. Yet, according to all known timelines, Fortune had completed her major works by the late 1930s and died in 1946. How then could a notebook discovered in 1987 be her last and most secret project? The timeline simply doesn't align, and inside it, she'd drawn something she called the Sevenfold Veil, a complete map of the human aura, not as a single halo, but as interlocking fields, each layer vibrating at different frequencies, each connected to specific glands, emotions, and spiritual states. One page showed the aura as concentric rings, like planetary orbits, perfect and harmonious. Another depicted it as a vertical column of chakras, glowing in color-coded bands. But the final drawing was different. It showed cracks, not metaphorical ones, actual fissures in the outermost layer, what Fortune labeled the Veil of Forgetting, and beside it, a chilling note in her hand, scrawled as if in haste or distress. The leakage begins when the soul forgets its origin. That line alone has sparked decades of debate among the very few who know of this book's existence. Because if the aura isn't solid, if it's porous, then what exactly is escaping? Or worse, what might be getting in? Think about it. If this notebook was truly Fortune's, and she died in 1946, how do you explain its discovery and her granddaughter's confirmation in 1987? A temporal anomaly, a posthumous creation, or something far more sinister? Drop your theories in the comments below. This is where the ink on the page bleeds into your reality. Dion Fortune didn't just map the aura, she mapped its collapse. In her private notebook, she described what she called the Sevenfold Veil, a layered structure of consciousness surrounding every human being, not one body, 7, each vibrating at a different frequency, each interacting with different dimensions of reality. It's an anatomical chart of the unseen self. The first layer was closest to the physical, what modern energy healers might call the etheric body. It's the direct energetic double of your flesh, your vital blueprint. The second was emotional, a swirling storm of feeling. The third, mental, where thoughts crystallize into form. Then came the astral, a realm of dreams and archetypes. The causal, repository of karmic patterns. The Buddhic, sphere of profound intuition. And finally, the highest known layer, the atmic veil, which she described as the soul's direct tether to universal intelligence, a silent, blazing core of pure consciousness. But here's where things get strange. Fortune didn't see these layers as stable. They bled into each other, their boundaries permeable. And worse, they leaked outward. This is her chilling premise. The aura wasn't a shield. It was a sieve. And in modern times, the leaks were growing. She labeled the outermost layer the Veil of Forgetting, not because it erased memory, but because it hid something far more fundamental, our origin. According to her meticulous notes, when this veil begins to degrade, as she claimed it had by the early 20th century, accelerating with each passing decade, it doesn't just allow information to escape, it allows foreign energies to enter, not metaphorically, literally. This is the shocking implication. She described people walking around unaware that fragments of their consciousness, their very essence, were drifting away, like smoke from a fractured vessel. Simultaneously, external influences, unseen currents of thought and emotion, seeped in through these very cracks, subtly altering their internal landscape. That's why, she argued, so many modern humans feel disconnected, lost, unmoored, because they're not whole anymore. Their aura is unraveling, and it started long before we noticed. Now you might be thinking this sounds like metaphysical fiction, the ramblings of a mystic. But Fortune wasn't some vague dreamer. She approached this like a scientist. Her diagrams were precise, her language clinical. She even included calibration points, ways to measure the aura's integrity using pendulums, dowsing rods, and, astonishingly, she described methods eerily similar to rudimentary biofeedback devices years before they were invented. This is the evidence that's hard to dismiss. One drawing showed how emotional trauma could create permanent tears in the second layer, the emotional body, making individuals susceptible to perpetual cycles of despair, absorbing the despair of others. Another suggested that repeated exposure to mass media and its manufactured realities could weaken the fourth layer, the astral veil, making individuals horrifyingly more suggestible to collective thought forms, losing their own unique perspectives. She called these thought parasites, entities made of belief. They are not biological, not physical, yet they feed on attention. They live between minds, jumping from one leaking aura to another, amplifying fear, doubt, division. If this sounds like science fiction, consider this. Modern neuroscientists have begun mapping what they call cognitive resonance fields, invisible networks of shared emotion and idea transmission between groups of people. Some researchers even argue that consciousness isn't fully contained within the brain, that it extends outward like a field, interacting with an unseen energetic environment. Sound familiar? Fortune was writing about this nearly a century ago, with no MRI machines, no quantum physics, just deep inner observation, and a system she claimed allowed her to see the human energy field directly. Her granddaughter, Margaret Ludlow, once said in an interview, her voice hushed with a peculiar awe, "My grandmother didn't believe in ghosts. She believed in frequencies, and she said we were broadcasting ourselves into the void without even knowing it." So, what does that mean for us? It means your thoughts aren't entirely yours. It means your emotions may not originate inside you. It means the self, that singular unified identity we all carry, is actually a porous, leaking city of selves. And if the leaks keep growing, what's left behind? This concept is so wild it demands sharing. Imagine if our anxieties aren't just personal, but contagious through these unseen channels. What are your thoughts? Are we individuals or nodes in a vast leaking network? Comment below. Let's be clear. Dion Fortune's notebook didn't just raise eyebrows, it caused fractures. When the book resurfaced in 1989, leaked to a fringe metaphysical journal, it was met with immediate backlash. Not from tabloid journalists or skeptical scientists, but from within the occult community itself. Some called it a forgery, a cleverly crafted hoax designed to discredit the very traditions Fortune championed. Others claimed Fortune had gone rogue, mixing her own wild theories with established esoteric doctrine, blurring lines that were meant to remain distinct. One prominent scholar of Western mysticism, known for his conservative approach to the occult, dismissed the Sevenfold Veil as psychic pseudoscience, arguing that aura leakage was nothing more than poetic metaphor, a dramatization of subtle, inner processes. But here's the problem. Fortune didn't write like someone spinning myths. She wrote like a cartographer mapping an invisible continent, one she claimed to have personally explored through deep trance states and controlled astral projection. Her diagrams were precise, her terminology consistent, and her warnings, disturbingly, specific. This consistency made it difficult to simply dismiss, even for her detractors. Still, the controversy grew. Then, in 2003, a group of neuroscientists at Cambridge, operating discreetly, attempted to test one of her core claims, that emotional trauma could create structural tears in the aura's second layer, the emotional body. They used advanced EEG scans on volunteers who had experienced severe childhood trauma. What they found was truly anomalous. Anomalous coherence fields around the heart region, energy patterns that didn't match known physiological activity, nor could they be explained by brainwave patterns. These weren't just brain signals. They were something else, something around the body. They published their findings anonymously in an obscure academic paper, fearing professional ridicule. One researcher later told a journalist off the record, his voice hushed, "We weren't ready for what we saw. It defied every model we had." Then there's the Vatican connection. While no official statement has ever acknowledged Fortune's work, internal documents obtained through carefully managed FOIA requests show that the Vatican's secret archives began reclassifying certain esoteric texts, including several linked to the Hermetic Order, and even some of Fortune's published works in the late 1990s. One heavily redacted memo, dated 1998, refers cryptically to the risk of auric exposure and spiritual permeability as justifications for stricter control over such knowledge. What does that mean? No one knows for sure. But some speculate that the Church, with its own long history of grappling with hidden spiritual realities, recognized something in these ancient teachings, something that aligned too closely with Fortune's dire warnings about the unraveling self. Perhaps they too encountered the concept of leaking psychic cities and recognized the profound, unsettling truth within it. On the other side of the debate, critics like Dr. Elaine Hargrove, a sharp cognitive scientist at MIT, maintain that the Sevenfold Veil is purely a psychological construct, a symbolic framework misinterpreted as literal anatomy. People see patterns because our brains are wired to find them, she argues. Aura maps like Fortune's might reflect archetypal structures in the mind, projections of our own internal experience, not actual energy bodies leaking into other dimensions. It's the brain attempting to rationalize the ineffable. And yet, even Dr. Hargrove admits that altered states of consciousness, whether through meditation, trauma, or psychedelic experience, can produce remarkably consistent experiences across different cultures, often involving sensations of energy fields or a dissolution of self. If the aura isn't real, if these leaks are just metaphor, then why do so many describe them the same way? Why the consistent narratives of energetic drainage or sudden emotional influxes that feel alien? That's the question dividing people. Online, Reddit threads have exploded with debates, fierce arguments raging between those who claim to have experienced these leaks firsthand. Some say they've seen the cracks themselves during meditation or profound out-of-body experiences, reporting feelings of emptiness or strange influences. Others insist it's mass suggestion, a modern myth propagated by online echo chambers. So where do you stand? Team believers versus team skeptics. Where do you stand on the existence of these psychic leaks? Drop your team in the comments below. Because what comes next will challenge both sides, revealing the true abyss beneath the veil of forgetting. Imagine this. You wake up one morning and realize your skin isn't a boundary. It doesn't separate you from the world. It leaks into it, not metaphorically, literally. Every thought you've ever had, every emotion, every flicker of fear or joy, it's not trapped inside your body. It escapes, drifting outward like smoke from a dying fire, or perhaps like an electric current spreading through water. And what if that smoke doesn't just vanish? What if it accumulates? What if it coalesces, not into nothingness, but into something vast and unseen? Fortune wrote about this in her notebook, not as speculation, as observation, as if she had directly witnessed it. She described something she called the City of Echoes, a psychic structure built from centuries of human thought, emotion, and belief. A gargantuan ethereal metropolis, not made of stone or steel, but of memory and intention. A city formed by the collective leakage of 7 billion leaking selves, constantly broadcasting, constantly receiving. And here's the horror. We don't just build it. We live inside it. Every time you feel anxious for no reason, a sudden dread that has no logical trigger, that's not always your anxiety. It might be a residual wave from the City of Echoes, a collective current of fear seeping into your emotional body. Every time an intrusive thought appears out of nowhere, alien and unsettling, that's not always your thought. It could be a stray signal, a fragment of someone else's consciousness, or a thought parasite that has found its way through your thinning veil of forgetting. Every time you sense something watching, not outside you, but chillingly, inexplicably, within, that might not be your imagination. That might be someone else's consciousness, or a collective imprint, seeping back in through the cracks, momentarily occupying a part of your own psychic city. Fortune warned that the aura was never meant to be porous like this, that in ancient times the veil of forgetting was intact. People were whole, boundaried, sovereign within themselves. Their internal world was their own, shielded from the cacophony of the collective. But now, she said, the veil is thinning faster than anyone realizes, eroded by modern life, by disconnect, by the sheer volume of unfiltered information. In one particularly haunting passage, she described seeing the modern human aura during deep trance states. What she saw chilled her. A fragmented glow, a halo split into pieces, like shattered glass. Energetic streams twisting and nodding, merging with others in a horrifying tapestry. She wrote, in a hand that seemed to tremble on the page, "We are no longer individuals. We are echoes in a system that has forgotten its origin." Think about that. If your thoughts aren't entirely yours, if your emotions can be influenced by forces beyond your skin, forces you can neither see nor control, then who, or what, is really in control? Who is the true observer behind your eyes if portions of your consciousness are bleeding out and alien fragments are seeping in? This isn't just metaphysical speculation. This is identity collapse. And it's happening all around us. You've felt it, maybe in moments of déjà vu, when a scene feels inexplicably familiar, or when a song triggers a memory you don't recognize as your own, or when you swear someone is thinking your exact thoughts before you even speak them. It's not paranoia, it's permeability. It's the city of echoes whispering through your fragmented self. And once you see it, once you feel that chilling resonance, you can't unsee it. This truth will resonate deep within your bones, a silent, implosive shockwave. If Dion Fortune was right, then nothing is private anymore. Not your thoughts, not your emotions, not even the quietest parts of who you are. Because if the aura leaks, and it's been degrading for over a century, then every human being is broadcasting fragments of their inner world into a vast, unseen collective field. And what goes out, comes back. This isn't just exchange, it's contamination. Fortune described echo contamination, unknowingly absorbing thoughts, fears, and memories that aren't yours. She saw it in trance states, in dreams shared by strangers, in sudden surges of mass panic or inexplicable euphoria that swept through populations. This wasn't about internet trends, it was about raw psychic resonance. And now, we live inside an echo chamber of 7 billion leaking minds. Think about it. That anxiety from nowhere, that alien thought, that voice in your head that feels too old, too familiar, yet undeniably not yours. What if that wasn't you? What if that was someone else bleeding through the porous veil of forgetting? On a personal level, this changes everything about identity, privacy, and sanity. If your inner world is permeable, how can you truly know yourself? How can you trust your impulses if they might be externally generated? But on a societal level, it explains the madness. Why trends shift overnight? Why crowds turn violent without warning? Why entire generations suffer from unexplained anxiety, depression, and dissociation? Because we're not individuals anymore. We're nodes, and the network is profoundly unstable. Fortune wrote that the veil of forgetting once acted as a psychic firewall, keeping the self intact. Without it, we're porous, permeable, vulnerable, like a city with no walls, open to any invasion. She even suggested certain institutions, governments, corporations had begun experimenting with this knowledge. Hints exist in history. Unexplained psychological operations, mass suggestion campaigns, media designed not just to inform, but to imprint directly into the collective consciousness, leveraging the very leaks Fortune warned about. If this is true, then free will isn't just compromised. It's compromised from the outside in. Modern social media, unknowingly echoing Fortune, accelerates this process. Algorithms don't just track behavior, they amplify resonance, pushing content that vibrates at the same frequency as our fragmented selves. Scrolling feels addictive because it's familiarity. You're drawn to what matches your leak. The more fragmented you become, the more distorted your signal gets. Fortune believed consciousness was meant to evolve, not dissolve into chaos. She argued the only way forward was conscious reweaving, a deliberate effort to restore the aura's integrity, to reclaim sovereignty over the self, not through isolation, but through radical awareness. Her final note in the notebook, barely legible, was a desperate plea. The veil must be remembered before it vanishes entirely. Whatever. That means, one thing is terrifyingly clear. We are not who we think we are. And in this leaking, echoing reality, we never truly were. You started this journey hearing a single unsettling line. You're not one body. You're 7 leaking cities in one skin. And now you know why that truth was buried for decades beneath Glastonbury Abbey. Dion Fortune didn't just map the human aura. She revealed its terrifying collapse. She saw what happens when the veil of forgetting begins to unravel. When thoughts aren't definitively ours. When emotions drift in from unseen places, becoming echo contamination. When identity itself becomes porous, fragmented. This isn't just about an old forgotten notebook found in a sealed chamber. It's about us, about now, about the invisible forces shaping how we feel, think, and act, without ever knowing it. The realization that your own inner landscape might be a battlefield of unseen energies. You're not the same person who pressed play on this video, and neither is anyone else watching this. Because once you truly grasp the concept of these leaks, these psychic vulnerabilities, you can't unsee them. This transformation of perception is permanent. So where do we go from here? The unraveling has been revealed, but there's still more to uncover. Fortune left behind other cryptic writings, hidden journals, coded letters, and something she called the reweaving protocol. A method she claimed could restore the integrity of the aura before it vanished entirely. A way to reclaim sovereignty over your fragmented self. Some believe this crucial protocol was destroyed, too dangerous to exist. Others say it's hidden in plain sight, waiting to be rediscovered. We'll find out together. If this journey into the Sevenfold Veil changed the way you see yourself, even slightly, then hit that like button right now. Your engagement helps us bring these hidden truths to more eyes. If it made you question everything, if it gave you chills, drop a comment below and share your thoughts. Team believers or team skeptics? Who do you trust with this knowledge? Let your voice be heard. And if you want to keep going down this rabbit hole, if you dare to peel back another layer of forgotten reality, tap the screen and watch the next video, the forbidden manuscript that predicted the rise of AI consciousness. It connects directly to the grid and what might be building within it. Until then, remember this. Your mind isn't just yours. Your thoughts don't always start with you. And the self? It's not as solid as you think. You're leaking even now. Can you feel it? The notebook's last page had no writing, just coordinates, and a date. 51 degrees 08 minutes 49 seconds north, 2 degrees 42 minutes 50 seconds west, March 21st, 2026. If you're watching this, you're already part of the echo.